Welcome to Pub Natter, where we record each episode in a different pub in Rutland, the smallest county in England. In each episode, your hosts, Tim and Justin, give a voice to the landlords and landladies and a special guest with a specific area of interest or expertise. We hope you enjoy our chats and it encourages you to go and explore our little county and all it has to offer. Like the motto says, there is much in little. In this episode, we return to the Noel in Whitwell, Rutland, and meet Jeanette, the new landlady, and our special guest is Julian Carter, the co-owner and head baker of Hambleton Bakery. When rain stops play, it's time for some pub natter. So we're back in the Noel in Whitwell. About a year later.
It is about a year, yeah.
And Noel, Christmas time. And we're with Justin, of course. And the new owner. Manager of the Noel, yeah. Jeanette Rooney, is here with us. And
hello,
hello. She's gonna talk us through what's going on and her future plans. But first of all, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your backstory? So where are you from originally?
Corby.
All right.
I haven't travelled far then.
No, not travelled far at all. I live in Ketton now. I've lived in Ketton for about 11 years.
But you haven't got a Scottish accent.
I can go into a Scottish accent. Is that what everybody thinks of people from Corby, that they all have Scottish accents?
Whenever I'm walking around Corby, and I go there a lot, I hear more Scottish than I do
Really?
English, yeah.
I don't find that so much anymore. When I was growing up, it was like that. To know that everybody's parents were Scottish.
I guess we should explain for people that are listening that Corby is actually a Scottish enclave in England.
Yeah, it was when Ravenscraig up in Glasgow closed down in the 60s, I think, 70s, and a huge number of Scots were brought down, and because they all lived in the same area, the kids grew up with Scottish accents.
Right.
And I played golf with a couple of guys a few years ago and asked them where they were from, and they said Corby. And I said, yeah, but originally, Corby, born and bred. I'm not going to try to do the accent. And I said, really? Yeah, and then they explained it to me about how it probably is fading out now because you're talking about maybe 3-4 generations, but certainly the kids growing up in the 60s and 70s in Corby just had Scottish accents.
I had a Scottish accent when I was little, pure Scottish accent when I was little, and then I went to school and it kind of sort of went.
So tell us what happened then. How did you manage to get from Ketton to here? So what were you doing before?
So I used to work for the local authority. I worked for Children's Services.
Children's Services?
Yeah.
What, in Rutland?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then my cousin was working here already. He was the chef. So the landlady before she left the place in a bit of dire straits really, and I jumped in to help out, and then didn't go to my new job because I was leaving Rutland and going to Peterborough, and decided to just stay here and give it a shot. Me and my cousin have always talked about getting a pub together for years and years and years, and he was like, come on, we can do this, let's do this, we can change this pub around. And it's still early days, but it's starting to get better.
And you've made a really good start by getting some really nice beer from the grain store.
Well, it took us a long time to do it. But,
so was it closed down for a time?
So they closed for a couple of weeks prior to that. So probably August time they closed for a little while, and then it was closed open, and then we were like, look, we can't do this anymore. It needs to be open. And we need to let people know that we are here. It's been such a busy pub before. My cousin is the most amazing chef. To know he has worked. He's been the head chef on I'm a Celeb. He's worked with Rick Stein. He's trained with them all. To know he's served Gordon Ramsay. He is a brilliant chef. And
sorry, are you going to be serving bush tucker here?
Yeah. Do you want to try it? Hold on a minute, Colin. Get them crickets.
They're the least of my worries.
Don't laugh. Climate change. We'll all be eating that in 6 years' time.
So he just needs people through to be able to do exactly what he's good at. So we're starting to slowly but surely get more people, more footfall through the pub.
So,
Sure.
sorry, I'm curious again about your cousin. What's his name? Is it
Colin.
Colin, the chef. So when he did I'm a Celeb, was that when
In
they
Wales.
were in Wales?
Yeah.
Because kangaroos and things like that are less easy to come by over there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he wasn't the chef for them bits. He was feeding all of the celebs and
Wow.
feeding everybody sort of around. So yeah, he's very very good at what he does,
Wow, that's
Very
quite
good.
impressive.
and is so humble.
Your vision of this place, is it a restaurant, is it a pub, or is it both?
A bit of both, really. I think I've always grown up in pubs, coming from Corby, with Scottish parents. We were brought up in pubs, and my children have never been brought up in pubs. Although my youngest, her granddad has ran pubs. Colin's food is amazing, so that restaurant side of things is so important. And realistically, the pub side of things, there's 40 people or something that live in Whitwell. So you're never going to get them through the door every day, are you? So I think we have to concentrate more on the food and really trying to do some events and things. So on Monday night, we had a psychic evening here.
Oh, wow.
And it was absolutely brilliant. We had 50 people in here and then 2 people doing demonstrations. And it was just such a lovely atmosphere.
It must have been easy to cater as well, because she obviously knew how many were going to come.
She knew exactly what they wanted.
And everybody else knew about it without having to look on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was a really good evening. So I think, I'd like to do more events like that, and maybe sort of a little bit more around a nice dining experience. So maybe magicians in whilst people are dining, not all the time, but as a one-off, things like that.
Put me in. I love magicians.
Do you?
I absolutely love magicians. I'm
I
like a
would come-
7-year-old when I see a magician.
I would have quite fancied the psychic evening.
There's another one on the 23rd of February.
There we go.
So but did you not know that? No.
No, I'm not psychic.
So yeah, maybe putting something like maybe a murder mystery evening, just trying to put a little bit of a spin on the food, and a bit more fun. And at Christmas we've got, I don't know if this will go out before Christmas, but
Yeah,
at
it will.
Christmas, will it? We've got we've got a band coming down to play 2 weekends for us. They're going to play the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 2 weekends in December. Now, both of them were lead acts in Let It Be. So one played John Lennon and one played Ringo Starr, I think. And they're going to come down and do acoustic sets for us. So that's going to be brilliant, just to have some nice music in the background round about Christmas.
Have you got the dates for that?
I'm just waiting for the actual dates to come through. So as soon as I know them, I will put them out on our socials. I think probably the weekend of the 7th and maybe the weekend of the 14th. That's what I'm thinking. But I'm just making sure they're both available, both them dates, to be able to come down. Because, I love music. So music being on, especially live music being on in the background.
What sort of cuisine is your chef going to be producing? So I see at the moment, all of your social media is pizza.
Pizzas are all over social media, so his pizzas are amazing. He's trained in Italy to do the pizzas. And we've had the most amazing compliments about his pizza. But yeah, pizza. So he's doing mainly, it's really difficult for us at the moment because we haven't got a high turnover of customers. So we're trying to keep the menu quite basic. So he's got burgers on there, he does an amazing fish and chips. And again, he's had lots of compliments on that. He loves doing Italian food. I think Italian food is his thing. But again, without having the footfall through, and even when we're putting offers out there, because we haven't got the followers on social media, etc., it's difficult to get that out to everybody. Because he would love to do an Italian night. He would love to do like curry nights and things, because he enjoys doing that as well. But again, it's making sure we've got enough customers coming in for it to make that viable.
Sure.
So with such a small sort of captive audience, where does most of your custom come from? Is it passing trade, or
it's normally passing trade. We have been getting a lot more people coming in from the local area, and more people from the village have been coming in as well. So we had quite a few come in on Monday for the psychic night, and then they were like, right, we will be back, because they realised that it's different people in the building, etc. So yeah, but the majority of it is just people passing. maybe going to Rutland Water, coming from Melton to Peterborough. A lot of our customers are from Peterborough.
Because it's on the Viking Way, isn't it?
It's right at the bottom of the Viking Way, yeah.
So, again, because walking, rambling, that's more and more popular.
Yeah.
And I think if people know that there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
We had two lads stay with us and started their journey here last week, and they ran, and it took them 36 hours to do the whole of the Viking Way.
So we're going to, obviously, we'll put you a link on our website.
Yeah.
But what are your social media sites?
So Facebook is the Whitwell Country Pub. I think Instagram is the same.
But did you know about the French Connection?
Yeah. So lots of the a couple of the locals, a couple that come in, a couple of the locals that come in, they've explained that to us, and then we started to do a little bit of research around it, and they did not dress up. They dressed up as...
There was what you might call a consensual kidnapping of a French teacher from the local school in Oakham. And they basically bundled him into a 2CV with a convertible roof and paraded him up and down the high street. Just basically looking very French, or very stereotypically
Playing
French.
La Marseillaise at the same time.
Did he have garlic round his neck?
Yeah. It was like... Because when you go to Paris, that's all you see is people with those T-shirts and loads of garlic
and berets on.
Beret. I mean, they claimed it, didn't they? They claimed Twinned with Paris, and
Well, they invited Paris to twin with them, and Jacques Chirac, who became Prime Minister or President, was the mayor of Paris at the time, and they wrote to him and said, "We'd like to twin with you," and they didn't get an answer. So they tried again and didn't get an answer. So the third time they said, "If you don't answer, we will take that as a yes." And so he didn't answer. So they said it was what's the word? Tacit acceptance of the proposal, and announced that they were twin with Paris. Put up a wooden sign and organised the parade with the kidnapped French teacher and all of the rest of it. And in fairness to Oakham Council, Rutland Council. They've actually come through with metal proper signs saying twin with Paris when it isn't, which shows a remarkable amount of...
As you're driving into Paris,
Does
you
not
never
say
know.
Twinned with Whitwell.
Yeah, there might be a sign there somewhere on one of those roads into Paris.
Perhaps I should make that our mission. We could take a sign over to Paris and twinned with Whitwell and see how long it takes for them to notice.
I think that's a great idea, and it would make a brilliant podcast, surely.
Paint a picture then. 5 years' time, me and Justin walk in the front door.
Yep.
What are we gonna expect?
Hopefully not a new landlady.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully not. Yeah, hopefully not a new landlady. Hopefully the same chef. Hopefully it all. I mean, I've already made lots of changes to the decor anyway. Not to the decor, but to the restaurant. Taking chair covers off, and I'd really like to have the outside of it done up nicer. All the rooms decorated, and refurbed. The house at the front having sauna. Jacuzzi, and what we'd really like to do is have some music studios at the side. So where our outbuildings are, would really like to be able to promote the house as a writer's retreat and have music studios at the side where they can record if anybody wanted to record in them, and then obviously locals could use that too. I think that in 5 years' time would be my dream. I'd really like to have some accessible pods up the back at the top of the car park for people to be able to come and be able to enjoy the area and Rutland Water, etc. I think that's probably 5 years down the line, definitely, especially the music bit.
So what about plans for more beers? You've got one really nice beer in from the grain store.
Yeah, and we're going to use a different brewery. So we've tried a couple. I think we want to try just keep one from the grain store, which will always be the grain stores, and then use the other pump and have a different one every month or something. So we've had Electric Landlady, We've had Landlord, which is from up north. Yeah, we just want to try different beers and let people have that choice to know. And if there is one that sticks, then we will probably get it in a little bit more often. But I'd like to just keep changing that one around and keep the regular one from the grain store. So you guys said that one from the grain store was quite nice.
It's really nice.
Yeah,
and
it is nice, actually.
and it's really well kept. So
Yeah.
kudos to you.
Oh, thank you.
Baker's Dozen, you can't go wrong.
No,
Got to give them a shout.
They
out.
are amazing.
Our
yeah.
friends in Ketton. Oh,
You got pizza.
The chef's just deposited some Italian pizza on the table.
Some wafer thin pizza.
Now I know why we do this. Because everybody always asks us, why do you do this?
Get fed and watered.
That's right. That smells really good.
It is really good. The pizzas are
Actually,
amazing.
that's just hit me.
So describe it to the listeners.
So it's a thin crust stone baked pepperoni pizza by the looks of it. It might be pepperoni and something else. No, I think it's just pepperoni.
With some oven baked tomatoes and
With
some
some
fresh basil
tomatoes,
and
yeah.
a little bit of rocket.
Rocket, and I think we've got a bit of spinach there as well.
And a lovely smell is wafting over now. And so I reckon that might be a good time to cut it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good
So,
plan.
Jeanette, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming in.
And we wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I hope it works out. It's
Yeah.
it's a cracking spot.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
And
pub. It's got
I've
so
been
much
here
potential.
Nearly 30 years, and it's never really had any sort of stability.
No.
It's always been changing
Yeah.
hands and things. So hopefully you'll
Yeah.
find
well,
the secret this time.
It's all down to the personality of the landlord/landlady, and I think they might be onto a winner here. Brill. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And for the pizza. So we're still in the Noel, and with Justin, and we've now got our special guest, Julian Carter, who is the head baker from Hambleton Bakery and the co-owner as well.
Part owner.
Part
Timmy
owner.
still got the biggest bit, yeah.
Okay. And
You got the knobby.
I got the way.
I'm generally interested in asking loads of questions. My only concern is this will go on far too long and we'll end up getting kicked out about 11 o'clock. So let's just begin by you telling us a little bit about your background. So you're from Liverpool.
I am from Liverpool. We come from a family of bakers, 10 generations. We started off in Bath in 1825, 13 Green Street, where we used to make the Bath Oliver biscuit from. And then the family, there was the husband died. It was everyone in our family was either called Thomas, John, or James. That was it. Yeah. So you can't trace the trade. It's like being in Wales. But they half the family split. Two of them, the brother and sister, moved to Liverpool about 1830 something. And Liverpool was a boom town then. You know, the docks, the port, going to New York and across the Atlantic. Great big new booming city, and they opened a bakery there on Duke Street, Upper Duke Street. And from there, we've been there ever since, really. We've never left. The whole family's still there now, but yeah, it's 10 generations, I'm told.
And they're still baking now?
Well, no, it's really the end of it now with me and my brother. My brother still bakes, I bake. My father and my uncle baked, and before that, my grandfather and his brothers baked.
Wow.
In between going to war, each of them had a war to fight. I've missed out on that, I'm pleased to say. But so that's the sort of family business. It's always been baking, not to what we do now with sourdoughs and things like that. It was confectionery and a bit of bread. It wasn't massively all about the sourdoughs or anything like that. If I said my dad was making a sourdough, he'd have laughed at me.
So you joined the Air Force?
I did, yeah. So
when were you 18 when you joined up?
just under 17 when I joined. My dad had to sign me off. He was quite happy to do it, to join up. The family business really couldn't afford another family member. It wasn't making any money. This is the days of sliced bread and Mr. Kipling. We were making handmade Eccles cakes and products like that, and it was labour intensive in a way, and there was not much money in it. And you could see that. And also, I didn't really want to go into it at the time. I thought, I can't see this being my life. I don't want it to be mine. So I was either going to join the Merchant Navy, but there was a 2-year waiting list to be in as a baker, and then I joined the Air Force. and so that was my choice to join the Air
So
Force.
you got straight in the Air Force.
About 8 minutes, I think.
You should change. Can you just do me a favour and change that story in the future?
Yeah, why?
I'd make it sound like it was really difficult to get in the Air Force.
I can remember them. The 80s was terrible in Liverpool. Unemployment was horrendous. I can still see people, because the recruiting officers were right next to each other on Lord Street, Army, Navy, Air Force, and they were queuing round the corner to get in. And you don't believe that now, but they were literally queuing to get in there to get work.
So what year was this when you signed up?
79, but I joined in 80.
80, right, okay.
So February 80, I went to Swinderby.
And then I'm going to guess that you went into the catering.
I did, yeah. Well, because I'd been to college, I'd learned to bake, but not cook. So I'd learned to bake. Only a vague learning of baking, and a little bit in the bakehouse as well as a kid, and then joined the Air Force as a chef. And it was like 3 years originally. The plan was not, just to get away a bit and see a bit of the world.
So how long was you in the Air Force?
So I left in 96.
Wow.
Yeah, 16 years, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good. So, so what stations were you based at?
So I started off, my first posting after the training at Hereford was RAF Digby in Lincolnshire, which was a signals unit. Very relaxed. It was like being a civvy in uniform. Really was in those days too. Yeah.
Did you get overseas?
I went to Larbrook in Germany.
Oh right, yeah.
Which I really enjoyed the whole time out there. But yeah, it was a great. Absolutely, so enjoyed being in. First time I'd ever been abroad as well. Never been abroad. Flew to Germany. The whole world was completely different for me there. I've so enjoyed it. Trips to Holland.
Yeah, well, it's right on the Dutch border.
We were nearer Holland than Germany, really.
Yeah, I was at Bruggen.
Yeah.
Which is right on the Dutch border as well.
Well, I went to Bruggen as well, in Gussersloh,
so
Rheindalen.
Which messes did you work in?
So I started off, strange enough, in the officers' mess, which was unusual. Usually they kick you in the airman's mess, I didn't know a lot, so I wasn't very popular there. I had a lot to learn, all this functions and stuff. Then I ended up in the airman's mess. Did a lot of duty cooks. I was not a great disciplinarian. I did a lot wrong, as in small things, but enough to get you charged quite often. So duty cook tends to be my normal shift, which was about 14 hours of feeding about 500 people on your own and doing all the prep. And fighting people out the windows, trying to get in from the naffy. But it was good. It was a good life. Even at that, I enjoyed it.
Cool. So you decided to opt out at your 16-year point?
Yeah, only because it was redundancies. If you remember. So there was a mass redundancy going on throughout the Russians had packed up then, and there was a mass redundancy going on, and I was offered a certain amount, because obviously I was cashing in my pension as well, if you know what I mean. So I was offered a certain amount, and I thought, well, I've done I didn't want to be in anymore. And I thought, it's not that I didn't enjoy it, but it was changing and it wasn't for me. So I used that opportunity to leave and do a bit more chefing in sort of a bit more upmarket. But before I left, I worked for John Major in Downing Street.
Well, so you can settle an argument then, can you?
Yeah.
Everybody who's listening to this is going to want to know the answer to this question. Did he eat a diet of just peas?
He never ate peas at all. But his big shame was he ate pink blancmange only. His only dessert was Whitwell's pink blancmange with nothing else on it. You put a strawberry in it, flick it off. And I did Heads of States where we had all these dignitaries, and Jacques Chirac from Asiatic desserts, and all he would have was a plate with the pink blancmange on.
And did Edwina Curry have a key to the servants' entrance?
We never saw her. I've got to be honest.
She was obviously very discreet then.
I think she was pre-me. So I sort of came in not long after Margaret Thatcher had gone. I think so. I can't quite remember. John Major was Prime Minister. He'd been elected probably the year before, and I'd gone in as because I'd been working by then for Air Chief Marshals, Air Vice Marshals, sort of doing catering for the houses and the guests, and then applied for Checkers, got the job, and got interviewed by Norma Major, and it was all service personnel or ex-service personnel in there. But you did 3 weeks at Checkers and 1 week at Downing Street. And if you're in Downing Street, you're in the flat with the Prime Minister, and that was it. There was no one else there. And you did his food, and you did... it's literally... The flat is the second floor, and it's just one long set of rooms like any other houses. And there's a little one at the far end where you sat, which was like sort of a little restroom thing. You had a telly on it in there. And I used to put on the TV with a Parliament channel on to see when he finished Prime Minister's question. Sounds good. I get his dinner ready. Like, he's just coming now. And he had this really important speech to do. Because I wasn't listening to the parliamentary thing. I was literally just watching it to see when he finished. And I didn't realise he had this important speech to make. And I said, I've just seen you on telly. He said, sit down, Julian. Tell me what you thought of it. I didn't listen. The look of disappointment on his face. And Checkers was much more entertaining, so we would do lots of functions. We had Jacques Chirac, we had Hillary and Bill Clinton come. We had Boris Yeltsin, which is the best one of all. When they came, that was so funny compared to the Americans. And so he separated from his wife, and he came to Checkers, and we were working in the kitchen. And like an old country house, the kitchen was at the back door, and everyone came through the back door unless the dignitaries only came through the front door. So we had these two Russians at the back door talking into their sleeves and a couple of coppers. And it's early morning, and we're doing breakfast, and they go, Boris Yeltsin's hairdresser has arrived. All right, and so we thought nothing of it. I looked out, and then this gorgeous girl walks past, absolutely gorgeous, and we're like, wow. And then an hour later, Boris Yeltsin's girlfriend is leaving. So we're all ready this time, looking out the hatch, and as she goes past, Boris comes down for breakfast, and his hair's all over the place. There's no way she was a hairdresser. Well, she's probably the worst one ever.
He was an alcoholic, apparently.
He was, yeah. They emptied that. Well, I don't know if I can tell you this, someone will have to kill me.
He's dead.
Yeah, well, he's dead, yeah, but I might be too. But yeah, they emptied the whole room. You might Novichok in me beer by now. But yeah, he was. They emptied all the room out of any drinks and things. But his idea of casual dress, they all dressed casual for an evening meal. He came down in a white shell suit. I'll always remember it. And he was a bit bevy, to say the least.
Wow. So you're working for John Major when he was living at Huntingdon?
He was living at Stukely Meadows, yeah, but he was also at Downing Street and Checkers. So, all sort of entertaining took place at Checkers. He quite often at the weekend would either go to Checkers or Stukely Meadows. Mostly, I think he was more comfortable at Stukely Meadows.
Wow.
And then, like I say, most of it was charity functions, big bashes, big buffets and food and, that sort of thing. And my job was pretty much to do the menus and get it organised and make sure we had enough staff to do it. And
high pressure.
It seemed like it now, but I don't know. At the time, maybe I've forgotten how bad it was. Because you've got all these dignitaries sitting down, and you think to yourself, "I've got all." And you get a list from the foreign officer what they can't eat, which is just about everything, and you have to plan a menu around that. And then when Bill Clinton came, we had a food taster sat in the middle of the kitchen.
Really?
Nice bloke, didn't taste a single thing, but he sat there in a chair talking about cricket. And he said, you must come and visit us at the White House, handing out his cards and things. And I said, I'm busy, I'm cooking, man.
Wow.
Yeah, it was probably the most interesting job I ever had.
Yeah.
That one, yeah.
You're not joking. So how did you get from there to working as a business?
So I used to do a little bit of work. I don't know if you remember John and Val, who had the Black Bull at Market Overton. Classic pub, one of the first foodie pubs in the local area. And John and Val ran it, and occasionally I'd do some cooking for them. And when I first left the Air Force, I went to work for them at the Black Bull for a bit.
So when would this was?
It'd be 96-ish, ish. I can't remember.
Were you living around here then? Or?
Oh yeah, because my wife's a Rutlander. She's from Thistleton.
All right.
So because if we're going to have kids and settle down, we thought she needs to be near the family. The other jobs were all in London. That didn't really work out for us, I didn't think. But I nearly ended up at House of Lords. I got a job offer for that and Harrods, but I turned them both down. Not that they were exceptionally good jobs; they were just jobs. Yeah. But and we decided to come back to Rutland. But I wanted to get to Hambleton Hall, but I needed a job to start with, so I worked at the Black Bull.
So how did you know about Hambleton Hall?
I'd known about it from being in the Air Force at Cottesmore and things like that. I'd known it was a good place to work. It's Michelin starred, and I'd never done that kind of cooking before, so I quite fancied a bit of that. I was quite old for everybody else who was there, who was working in the kitchens then. But I started off on pastry, then veg, and then worked my way around to sous chef. I was there 11 years, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's when we opened the bakery.
So what was your one big takeaway from Hambleton Hall?
Oh, ingredients, seasonal stuff you don't learn the brilliant thing about Hambleton Hall is the ingredients are amazing. There's no compromise. You've got dive scallops coming in from Scotland, langoustines coming in live, lobsters, turbots, that's just the fish, local game, hares, all this sort of stuff. You did everything from scratch and nothing came in pre-prepared. You prepped absolutely everything. You made the sauces from the bones. You did everything. It was brilliant. And it gave me a really good idea of how to cook and how to work seasonal as well. It was just a brilliant place to work, I thought, apart from the hours.
Did that kind of like re-educate you?
Completely, yeah. Yeah, it was a whole new ball game. I'd done banqueting, I'd done dinner parties. I've done cooking for 1,000 in a field. I've been out at Gutterslow cooking for the Harriers and things like that. With a really dodgy compo food and stuff like that. So it was a completely. I've done just about everything you can think of in a way, except the sort of Michelin-starred stuff. And this is what really interests me at the time. And it was I just loved the ingredients. I love fish more than anything, but I love the ingredients and that sort of thing.
Wow. What's your favourite fish?
I would say, strangely enough, I like a red mullet. I like the stronger flavours in the fish.
Yeah.
I don't like. I mean, turbot's nice, but it's bland in comparison to something like a red mullet.
What about you? You like fish, don't you, Justin?
Yeah. I eat a lot of salmon.
Yeah.
In America, I've eaten stuff like mahi, that kind of thing, but I wouldn't say I'm an aficionado, as it were.
Maybe you like it.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
Aficionado.
But yeah, no,
I've got one here. I should have put that on. I missed it. So, yeah, sea bass. For me.
Yeah, sea bass, lovely.
Yes.
Yeah. Proper dive sea bass though, line cut.
Yeah, fish.
Yeah. Well, there's a massive difference to that and something you get in a farm sea bass.
This is a bit of a diversion, but my youngest son and his civil partner, she's American Canadian, and she's not in America next week for Thanksgiving, but they're having a thing called Friendsgiving, and they've decided to hijack our house as the venue because there's about 10 of them and their flat's not big enough. So we're invited, since it's our house.
Yeah.
But the deal is that everybody has to cook a dish. Now, poached eggs and bacon is about the limit of my culinary achievement. So I've now got to cook a dish. So I've decided I'm going to go really big and do roast Brussels sprouts with balsamic and honey and maybe some bacon. And I am already stressing about this. A week and a half out, I'm already having sleepless nights. So
the secret is blanch them, right? So they're cooked before you start, right?
So now I need to rewind because I don't know what blanch means.
So cook them, basically boil them till they're cooked, and then chuck them into ice cold water, right? So when they're perfect, they're held at that thing. You can't cook them up then. It takes about 5 minutes to get them out in the oven.
Right, I'll bear that in mind. I might get you to sneak round the back when no one's looking and do it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so salt crust cooking is several years in my future, I think.
But it is a good, simple way of cooking, a brilliant way of getting seasoning in. In the old days, they used to use pastry, because the ovens had two temperatures, off or 3 million degrees. So they used to use pastry to protect the actual meat roasting in the ovens. So they would wrap the salt crust around anything beef or whatever, bake it black, and it wouldn't matter because it's protected, sort of old-fashioned tin foil, if you like. So it's quite often used as a way of stopping things burning in wood-fired ovens and things like that.
Oh, that's interesting. So let's get back to the story.
Yep.
So where are we now?
I've just finishing off at Hambleton Hall, and so Tim Hart. I wanted to go back to baking. I'd made my mind up that I'd probably done enough of all this, and I was back in pastry again for the 5th time. I thought, do you know what? It's time I give this up. And so I thought, I'm going to put my notice in. I'm going to go back to Liverpool. I'm going to open a bakery in Liverpool. And Tim Hart said to me, don't go to Liverpool, we'll open a bakery together in Rutland. And I said, can I have a wood-fired oven? And he said, yeah. And that was the done deal then. And so,
wow.
Yeah.
So your oven is famous. Your particular oven is famous.
Well,
the one that I saw was when in your old place in Exton.
Yeah, it's still there.
Is it because that's about 600 years old?
No, that's absolute fallacy. It's about 2008, built on site by a man called Yoppis.
So where did that story come from?
I have no idea, because the whole building at Exton used to be a power station that used to have 4 diesel generators in that used to power that massive digger called Honeydew or something. Can't remember the name of it now. That used to work. So Exton itself, that part of the estate, was a quarry, and that's where the railways by rocks ran straight through that field and out to Ashwell. And you can still see the old railway line that looks probably like an old river or something. And Honeydew, or whatever it was called, had this big diesel generator. There was no electricity going in, 4 of them. And of course, after it all shut down, it filled in. And it's made a nice, beautiful field now. But the building itself had been derelict for years.
So is that why the train thing at Cottesmore was called Rocks by Rail?
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah, so the quarry was there, and they took the rocks from there. There's an actual little bridge as you go between Exton and Cottesmore, and it used to go under there and out to Ashcombe. I think it probably came up by where what do you call it, the recycling tip is. That road that goes up from there probably went that way, I imagine. But yeah, so that's... and it was an old power station, basically, is what it was. The generators are gone. There was nothing in there but an owl and some empty cans of special brew when I went to look at it. And so we thought, it's not massive, but we weren't looking for much, but we could build in the bays, which is where we put the wood-fired oven. So I got in touch with this Spanish guy from Barcelona called Yoppis, absolute mad as a hatter, who came over and built the oven on site with a British labourer. It was really good. And so we just gave him a hole and he built the oven. And so it's not as old as it looks old. It looks ancient, but as they do, don't they? But no, it's not that old.
Is it to an 800-year-old design, maybe?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, in a way, yeah.
I don't know. Somebody told me that story.
Well, there are ovens, but I doubt many of them are 800 years old, I would say. But
600, they
600,
say.
yeah. It's certainly not true from my point of view. But I helped him build it.
Yeah.
When I say helped, I tightened the bolts up.
So you built it to your spec?
It's to the space. So the spec was, what can we get in the space? It came out, so the ovens are sort of lots of sort of metal parts, and then the rest is brick, and they sort of dome the underneath of the oven, like sort of Roman type brickwork underneath, with a hearth in it. So it's fired underneath, not in the oven itself. Because it had to be practical, we had to have a turnover on it. Most ovens you fire inside, then you brush out the ash, then you flail it with an old wet sack, and then you load it. Then you have to relight it after a couple of bakes. This one you fire underneath so it remains clean, and it also revolves. So the first bread in is the first bread out. You get about 70 loaves in it.
Wow. So then you started...
Yes, yeah. So
that was your base, was at Exton?
Yeah. So we looked everywhere, Stanford, other places, to see if we could put a bakery anywhere else. This looked like the most likely spot, and it was on Exton Estates, and it was a derelict building. We managed to get planning permission for it, and then we built it ourselves to get sort of rent-free time from Exton Estates where we could do it. And so we've done it up as cheaply as we could. We didn't spend a lot of money. I had an Artifact, which is a 60-year-old mixer, the wood-fired oven. And a couple of really small machines which were all second-hand, and off we went, really.
What was the reason for specifically wanting a wood-fired oven?
Do you know what? If I'm being 100% honest, it went with the image, right? It's a bit like a windmill. So you have a windmill at Whissendine or Boston, right? It's great, but they don't use the wind. They use electricity to mill. The windmill is part of it. It's the same with the wood-fired oven. You don't need a wood-fired oven because all the wood is doing is heating up the bricks. It's actually the bricks that cook the bread. It's the heat stored within the oven that cooks the bread. So it's a kind of a little bit of a cheat, if you like, but it goes with the image. So a wood-fired oven, like a windmill, it's inconsistent milling from a windmill. So they use electric to get consistent milling. But the kind of heritage side of it, the romantic side, if you like, is that. And I think for me, I always wanted a wood-fired oven.
But it doesn't add to the flavour or the taste or anything
like that? It can, yeah, but it's not. You can smoke the oven out, but... not massively, no. You know, every so often the oven will fill with smoke from the fire, you know, get a bit of backdraft and things like that. But it's not like you can chuck pine on there and it suddenly all tastes of pine. Or you burn hickory and it all tastes... It's not really like that. Most of that smoke goes out the chimney and the heat is what you're trying to capture.
Yeah.
So you've got a bit...
completely removing all the mystery from this business now, aren't we?
I'm so sorry.
You know, we're thinking that there's wood nymphs and elves and people working in there, and you're just saying, it's all a bit of a con, really.
well, it's not a con. It's just as I've got older, I've thought about it more, and I think it is that kind of thing, you know. Yeah. But working with the wood, it was stuff we could get from the local estates and things like that. It was all offcuts. We didn't really kill any trees.
So there you go. So there is a bit of kind of environmentalism.
It was good with the environmental side of it. Yeah. We still got the wood-fired oven. We still use it. Right. It's not like we're not. But we couldn't use it for what we do now. I'd need about 8 of them to be able to do what we're doing now.
Wow. I hope you enjoyed listening to this pub natter. In the next episode, which will be released very soon, we continue our conversation with Julian Carter. As you know, we are not a money-making enterprise and produce these podcasts purely to promote Rutland's watering holes and to give a voice to our local folk. You can help us by leaving a review for Pub Natter, preferably on Apple Podcasts, as this is where we have most listeners. But if you are able to leave a review anywhere, we will be very grateful. Thank you for listening. The theme tune is by Tom Arnold. That was a Pub Natter broadcast.